Hey everyone, welcome to the C&J channel. So this is the second video on the Feria del Libro, and this time was more of a girls' day out. I went with my closest friend here, Andy, who is also an illustrator, and we both love going to cafes and browsing through art stores, and spending an entire day looking at books is like heaven for both of us. And these here are los puestos de libros in front of La Rural, and you'll find out-of-print books, old books, used books, of course, and all for cheaper than what you'd find in a bookstore. And it was, when we went, it was the third to last day of the feria, so it's like I had thought that the day I went was crowded, but it was nothing like this. And maybe because there were a lot of famous people there that day who were signing their books. And even so, though, we really enjoyed going, just being there, and just hanging out and talking and looking at everything, even though we only saw maybe a quarter of the entire feria. And along the way there was this little exhibition of famous moments in Argentinian history, which is really interesting. When I first moved here, I didn't know anything about Argentina, and I highly recommend you look into it if you have any interest in history at all. And it was also really cold. You can see everyone's wearing winter wear. And even after 12 years of living here, it's still weird that it's going into June, July now, and it's freezing cold here. And I feel like we should be putting up Christmas decorations or having Thanksgiving, but but no, it's just winter in South America. I'm still not used to it. And this is one of our favorite stands, the stand full of illustration and fine art books and graphic design books. And she had wanted to get a book about graphic design, but everything here is just way out of our budget. Like I said in my first video, it's like $80 to $100 US dollars each. So it's something you really have to budget for, at least for the normal person. But such beautiful books, like this book of drawings by Fragonard. It's really gorgeous. And it's weird that there are bookstores everywhere in the city, independent bookstores. So that is something that is still a viable business model here. Like, people here buy a lot of books. Even with the inflation, it's like you will save up to buy a book you really want, And I just find that really interesting. Like, where I grew up, I can think of maybe 2 independent bookstores close to me, but I can't even count how many independent bookstores there are in the city. And this is where I went to look for games the first time I went. I didn't find anything, of course. And this stand, everything they had was just really beautiful. I wanted to get everything. Like this book I've been looking at for a few years. Just really interesting take on Alice in Wonderland. And I like the style, the kind of mixed media style. And this one, I also love the style, like kind of surreal, but highly realistic. And this one, I have to check that out. Emily Dickinson is also popular here, which is really nice. And this book, I love that simpler, cartoony style. And maps, I really love maps. And so I was thinking of getting this book, but I think I would rather prefer like prints to put on my wall above my work desk rather than a book. I don't know. It was still really interesting though. But this one, oh my god, I love this illustrator. When I saw this book, I'm like, I have to have it. I have to have this book, you know, because I'd never heard of this illustrator before. I'd never seen his work, and I just love it when I discover someone like that, you know. And his work has this really beautiful surreal quality to it. It kind of reminds me of Gustav Klimt, but I mean, if Gustav Klimt had been an illustrator, you know. And oh god, his work is so gorgeous. His people all tend to look the same though. I don't know if that's deliberate or not, but still, I just love looking at it. And here, this guy is like the complete opposite, but also fun to look at, you know. And this one as well. I like Neil Gaiman. I like his writing, even though, funny enough, I never really remember his stories afterwards. It's really weird. I don't know why. And this illustrator, so detailed. I love. Like, it must take so much patience to do that. I don't know. I don't think I could ever work in this style because I don't have enough patience for stuff like that. I love that book. And I love books like this that don't actually have any writing in it, but just tell, you know, like they're just storyboards. You know, I love that. I would love to, I mean, I would love to do more books like that. I did do one book like that. It was a coloring book that you can find on Amazon called The Mouse. And this book is really pretty, very traditional style. And where's Waldo? Those are really cute. I love that style. And that artist again, what's his name? Svetlin Vassilev. That's his name. And we both love comic books, especially the cover art, of course. And I think I got one comic book that day, but it was an older one, Tintin, because it was on sale. And I do like Tintin, of course. But it was hard to narrow down what books I wanted to buy. And a lot of radio stations were broadcasting from there. I don't really listen to the radio here, even though I should, because it would really help me with my Spanish, but, you know. I tend to watch YouTube most of the day. Like other YouTubers who are not professionals, but who just record their daily life or travel, stuff like that. Like, I don't know, I found ever since I started watching that type of stuff that I don't really enjoy the more professionally produced stuff anymore. It's really weird. It's like it just feels fake, you know? Like just some normal person with their cell phone or camera is just so much more interesting to me. And this series of books I really like. I was thinking of getting that book that day, but I wasn't sure. Like, it didn't really grab me. Like, I could wait to get that one. And Harry Potter, of course, is always popular. And that guy, God, what's his name? And Messi, he's everywhere. Everyone loves him. I heard he was planning to build a theme park somewhere, and I'm hoping it's in Argentina, because Argentina could really use a good theme park. I mean, there is like some kind of park in Tigre that I've never been to. I don't know if it's any good or not, but a theme park this place could really use. And another of my favorite stands, Adel Vives, and I love this book. Benjamin Lacan, the French illustrator, and he's brilliant, you know. As an illustrator, it's hard not to compare yourself to others, and you see some of these illustrators who just knock you over with book after book, just beautiful work. And then you see other illustrators and they don't really strike you. You know what I mean? It's like, I can see why this guy is so successful, even though I would say I prefer some other illustrators to his work, and yet I can see like there's just something emotional in their work. It's like they don't have the best, say, perspective, and all their characters look exactly the same, and yet you feel something when you look at their work. I love pop-out books. And this guy, oh God, he's another one who just drives me crazy with how good he is. So I think what I really want to do professionally is to write and illustrate, and not just illustrate other people's works, but to also write my own stories, you know. And I have written, well, I have created one book called The Mouse. But it's a book without words. So I don't know what you call that. It was like a illustrated storybook, and I published that on Amazon a few years back. And I really want to do more, you know. And like, because that one did sell, but it didn't sell a lot, you know. It's not something I could have paid my rent with. And so I felt like I needed to go back to just illustrating for other people, you know. But it's really my dream to be like Chantin or Chris Van Allsburg or Benjamin Lacan, you know, to write and illustrate my own work, and instead of someone else's idea. So that's the next step, I think. Well, the next step would be to be like, just to think of a story to write. Because I keep thinking, okay, I'm gonna write a story, and then I don't, because life is just so busy these days, you know, especially with a family to take care of. And so I really got to get better about that. This is the illustrator Chris Riddle's version of Alice in Wonderland, by the way. I've always loved his line drawings, and It's really interesting how he uses the real-life Alice as the model in his illustrations here. A much more traditional look, by the way, than the version I showed earlier in this video, the one by Pat Andrea.
Let me see if they are another designs.
And I think it would be so interesting to illustrate either one of the classic stories or one of the more modern famous stories. Like, of course, I would love to illustrate Harry Potter, but I've also always wanted to illustrate Wind of the Willows, or maybe one of the classic fairy tales like Snow White or Beauty and the Beast. And I love the Anna Green Gables series too. I would love to illustrate that. Or the Tiffany Aching series by Terry Pratchett. Anything by Terry Pratchett, really. I love him. And then anything by Jane Austen as well. And some of the stories by Dickens, for sure. And then the Greentown series by Ray Bradbury. I really like those. I mean, any classic story that came my way, any classic or famous story, I'd be really happy to try. This is the illustrator Juan Chaveta, by the way. He definitely looks like an artist, I think. If I didn't know he was an illustrator, I might have assumed he was a musician. So my friend's mother is apparently a fan of this guy. She really loves his character, so she bought one of his books for him to sign, and he actually did an entire watercolor in it, and which we were not expecting. It was really nice of him to do. And there's his little watercolor. Signed to Andy's mother. And there we are taking a little break, and I bought one of these books for my stepson the first time I went, and this book series also has a video game to go with it, which I think is a brilliant idea. And this comic book I really want to get sometime because it's like a steampunk Batman, and it's like, how does that work? Because Batman's all about the gadgets, right? And, you know, he has the Batmobile, and he's a billionaire. He can make whatever he wants. And so how would he operate in a world before electricity? So yeah, I really want to get that book, or maybe I'll just read it in the comic book store. So and these are I forget who the publisher is, but these are all famous Argentinian illustrators, and that was I forget who his name is, but he's like a famous comic here. And there's your usual posters that you find in Comic Cons and so forth. And this was illustrated by a friend of ours. His name is Nelson Taylor, and he's really well known here, and he's also really nice. We went to his house several times, and the first time we went there, he showed us around his entire work studio, and it was pretty amazing because his work studio is the entire second floor of his house. I mean, it's like every artist's dream. You know, especially for me, because right now I only have a desk in our apartment, and my husband and I both work at home, and when my stepson is home, it's nearly impossible to concentrate. So I really want a workplace like that one day. And these people here are waiting for I think he's a famous YouTuber. I'm really not sure, but I know I've seen his face somewhere. Yeah. If I remember who he is, I'll put it in the description. So I don't know if these people actually wanted a book signed or if they just wanted to see him. No idea. And this was pretty cute. It was pretty random because it's not a Disney stand, but I guess they have some Disney books that are new this year. And this is also one of our favorite illustrators, um, Quentin Greyvan. We just love his work. Love watercolor. And I was talking to Andy about what she most liked about the feria, and she was saying how it's a really good opportunity to meet other illustrators or writers or publishers. Like, I mean, not just by getting their books, but in the first part of the feria, they have this 3-day event, I think, for professionals, and so we went to that in 2014, and also in 2019 we had the opportunity to meet one of our all-time favorite illustrators, Rebecca Doutremer, and we both waited in line for like 2 hours with her book Las Ricas Horas de Jacominas Gainsborough, and she signed both of our books with, and she made a little drawing. It was really nice. It's one of my favorite things. And after she finished with Andy's book, Andy gave her a caricature of herself. So, I mean, of Rebecca Doutremer. So she really liked that. So, and also in 2022, Andy had the opportunity to be one of the illustrators signing books because she had just illustrated the book El Maravilloso Mundo de Antoine Leroy by Sergio Delia. And he is a magician, and he wrote a book about being a magician. So, and Andy and he were at the Editorial Duncan stand signing books that year, and she said it was a dream come true, really, and like the pinnacle of her career thus far. So also she'd been working on that project for like 5 years, so it was a really nice finish to that whole process. So whenever Andy and I get together, we inevitably talk about the ups and downs of being illustrators. And it's not like we didn't know that there'd be a lot of ups and downs in this profession, but we hoped that at some point the downs would be less and less frequent. But, like we were at the feria, we were looking at some of the classic illustrated books, like books by Howard Pyle and so forth, and we were commenting on how artists like that with just one book could afford to buy a house, like not just a house, but a house on a big plot of land. And but now illustrators will just, for us in any case, we can survive, say, maybe just a few months longer, or maybe up to a year if we manage our money well. So in other words, the price of illustration since I graduated has stayed pretty much the same. But as we all know now, that inflation doesn't stop. It just keeps going up and up. And so that means that we always have to hustle. So it can get a little frustrating. But luckily we like, for example, I could I could afford not to work here and there because my husband can support us both. And Andy, she has steady work with a studio, but it's part-time work, but it's enough to survive on. And then she takes freelance projects on the side, and she takes as much work as she can on the side. So we're both just constantly hustling and looking for work and working. And at the same time, though, this is what we love to do. When we're not working professionally, we're sketching, we're practicing, we're taking online classes. So this is what we love to do, and it's not like we're complaining. It's just that in this kind of profession, you need someone to kind of vent with. You need that emotional support because it's not the easiest life to choose. I don't know how many illustrators in the world actually do reach a place of great financial success, and how many just give up on the other hand. I don't know if there's any numbers on that, but I have to believe that if you just keep going, that sooner or later it will pay off. Like either you will be able to support yourself at least solely on your artwork, or at the very least you're doing what you love. You're not working in an office or some other horrible job that you just dread every day.
He's reading from He looks like Papa Francisco. Doesn't he? Papa Francisco.
And after that, we went to Cafe Martinez again to get a much-needed snack, a little pick-me-up, a submarino, which is just a big hunk of chocolate, a candy bar, basically melted in hot milk. And there's nothing better on a cold day with some really good media lunas to go with it. And by the way, this is my book haul. There's the Uno that I got and all the books, and from the 2 days that I went. So the rest of this video is going to be a closer look at the illustrations of the books Romeo and Juliet and Peter Pan. And if you're not interested in that, no worries, but if you are, enjoy. And thank you for watching this video. Ciao! you.